Hi, this is Sara Levin, the Artful Inker. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, which means that all of the products I'll use today can be found in my Stampin' Up! Store. We'll be creating this Emboss Resist Good Morning Magnolia Christmas card, so let's get to the creating. Okay, so for this card, we're going to start with Good Morning Magnolia, and this is a two stamp set from the Stampin' Up! Annual Catalog. Let me set this aside. You can, of course, find that in my store. I've got a piece of scrap paper and a piece of Whisper White that measures 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And we're going to need this pretty big magnolia. So let's ink it up with Versamark. And let me ink and try not to make the camera jiggle all over the place. Okay, nice and inky. And then we just want to come in here in this lower left corner and give this a good press all over. Now you could also do this in your Stamparatus so that if you miss any places, it wouldn't be any problem to come back and stamp again. Let's close up my ink. And we'll sprinkle on our white Stampin' Emboss powder. This magnolia is one of my favorite flowers in the catalog. I love this big, beautiful bloom and am always happy to find ways to use it. Okay, so let me take this off screen a moment and use my heat tool to set this. Now I am going to heat from behind so that I'm not blowing my embossing powder around while it waits to melt. Be back in a moment. Okay, so now we have the emboss piece. I don't know if you can see here. Oh, there we go. It's white on white, but we're going to change that. I've got my real red ink pad and a piece of a stamping sponge. I've attached a piece of real red cardstock to the top so that I know which sponge this is. And I'm just going to start off the side and tap a couple of times so that you get rid of all of this little texture bit, and then just begin to roll this on. And this does take a little while to build up the color. This is something that you could easily do sitting in front of the TV at night watching your favorite show. It doesn't take a great deal of concentration. In fact, the only bit that I think you really have to concentrate on is that you're going to tap off first so that you don't get that little texture from the sponge on your piece. Sometimes that can be fun, but that's not always what we want. And I just want to keep building color. I want this very intensely red down here on this side rather than almost pink. I'm going to move this up just a little bit, and you can create, obviously, a little gradient of color. You don't have to color your whole piece. But I do want this intense, so I'm going to keep doing this for a bit. I'm going to turn the camera off, and then I will be back once this is colored to my satisfaction, and we'll move on from there. Okay, so now that we've achieved the color density that we want, I've got a piece of napkin, paper toweling would work, and you're just going to rub that over top of that white embossing, and you can, if you choose, dampen it lightly, which will help pick up some of that red ink, but then you have to be very careful as you go back so that you're not taking red ink off the places that you want to be red. So just a light bit of color of water, and then you can pick up that little bit of ink. So, okay, let's clean this up and move on to our next step. So I got to looking at this, and my white embossing is still a little pink looking. So let me zoom in, and I'm just going to lay my scrap over here to the side. And I've got one of our blender pens. It comes in a 3-pack, and they can be found in the annual catalog. And you can use the blender pen to pick up that red ink that's still on the embossed lines and give this a whiter look, because I want mine to be very white, and so for me this little bit of extra time is totally worth it. And let's see, where else do we look pink? Some of this looks white and some of this just still looks pink to me. So anyway, as you can, I hope you can see where I'm taking this off, that it becomes much brighter. And some of this was already very nice and white. It's mainly this area over here where I did the bulk of the inking. Okay, so that looks better to me. We'll just clean that up. And now we're ready to move on. Okay, so next we're going to use one of the ornate layers dies. And I'm bringing in my Stampin' Cut and Emboss so that I can show you what I'm doing with this. So let me open it up. And let me make sure that I am zoomed out. That's much better. And put our plates down. And I've got a scrap of gold foil here. And my first cut is going to be all the way up here at the end. I'm just putting down a piece of washi tape to hold it in place. And let's push this out, because I don't want to come all the way over and cut all the way to the end. I'm going to make this both bigger and smaller as we die cut. So let's pull this back out, and then we're going to move this. So let's take this off and line this up and turn it around now, and put our cutting plate back on. And this is the bigger portion, and we're just going to cut, whoops, here at the end. Let's push this bottom plate back on to my stack. Okay, and that should be about where we cut to the last time. Of course, I'll take a look once we've run that through. Let's pull this out and move this back. Now, before I move anything, I'm going to pick this up and look through. Okay, so I have one more little bit to cut here. Whoops. Let's put that tape down and make sure that we get that one more little bit. So we're going to go to here. Okay, and that should do it. Now we've made it longer, but I also want to make it more narrow, which is the smaller. So we're going to need to make 2 cuts here as well. So I'm moving this down just a little bit. And we can cut all the way up to just before the end over here with this cut. Okay. And by not placing the cutting pad all the way to the end, it means that we didn't cut all the way to the end, which is perfect. We did not want to. And then we're just going to line the die up here and put this down and cut this final bit over on this end. So we will have made this piece both bigger and smaller. So, okay, so this is what we end up with. Still a rectangle, still stitched. It's just more narrow and it's longer. So let's move on to the next bit. Okay, so let's move these pieces out of the way. And then next we're going to do some stamping with the Wishes and Wonder stamp set. So I have a 3/4 inch by 3 3/4. I think that's the length of my Whisper white strip that I've put in my Stamparatus. And I'm going to stamp my sentiment in real red. And I'm using my Stamparatus because, as I've said before, I can't necessarily be trusted to stamp words straight when I don't get to use a die or a punch to straighten them. So let's pull this out, and that works perfectly to layer on our gold strip that we cut previously. Move this out of the way. And then there's a tiny bit more stamping that we want to do. So I'm going to bring my scrap paper in. And I don't know why I got in a hurry and closed my ink pad, but I am using the mistletoe from Wishes and Wonder. It is a fabulous little stamp to add just a little detail for the inside of your card. And then I'm also going to use that on my envelope. And you can find these beautiful medium-size envelopes. That's a standard card size in the Stampin' Up! Catalog. And they are just the smoothest, loveliest envelopes that I've ever handled. Okay, and we'll move that out of the way for a moment. Now I'll close up my red so I don't dip any fingers or cards or what have you in it. And we're going to bring in our real red card base. And this is 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. A little different opening. It's still just a half sheet of cardstock. And then we're going to put this layer on the inside. And let's bring in the piece that with our Emboss Resist and add it to a piece of gold foil. Now the gold foil is cut to 4 by 5 1/4, so a standard size layer. And we're just going to put this straight on because since I'm leaving just a narrow border of the foil, I like to adhere it directly to the foil. And let's find my dimensionals over here. And we'll add dimensionals to the back of this. This is another one of those cards that is easy to mass produce for Christmas. So many of they're easy steps and they can be done for each step. Done all at one time. Okay. And then let's layer our sentiment strip onto our gold foil die cut. You know what? I'm going to wipe that off and put dimensionals on there. I have changed my mind, so this is the way I'm going to wipe that off. And let's see if a full-size dimensional will fit. Yes, it will. So that's quick and easy. Do you ever change your mind mid-card on what you're going to do? Oops. Okay. And then just center this on our foil piece here. Not quite centered, so I'm going to pull that up again and move it over. Okay. And I've got a piece of backing sticking out here. That's not a winning sort of thing. Okay, that looks better. Okay, now let's add some dimensionals on the back of our foil. If you haven't been with me before, you will find out now that I do love my dimensionals. Okay, bring this over. We're just going to offset this to the left and line it up with that gold foil layer. And then let's take some of our gilded gems, and we're just going to add a couple of those. I'm going to use my take your pick tool to do that. So let's put one down here. And let's take one of these medium-sized ones and go up here. And another small one and go up here. Okay, now that's our fairly clean card there with our embossed resist. And then let's finish up our envelope. I've used the envelope dies. They come in 4 different sizes to cut flat pieces, and then here for our smaller envelope. And I've cut a piece to line the inside out of the 'Tis the Season designer paper. And I'm just going to use my Stampin' Seal. Let me start that here. Oh, thought I'd rolled it enough. And I'm just putting a piece along the top. I leave the bottom loose because as you open and close the envelope, you need this to have a little give. So I'm going to attach this right below the gummed portion of the envelope and give that a nice rub. When you do cut your designer paper, if it has a very straight design like this does, just be sure that you have cut this so that your lines are straight and not a little wonky. So there's our finished envelope and our embossed resist card. Thanks for stopping by. This was Sara Levin, the Artful Inker. I would love it if you would give this video a thumbs up and share it with your card making friends. And of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell if you would like to be notified the next time I upload a video. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye.